ready.
They were prepared for the firefight, but they were not prepared for the coup.
The Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force had other plans and responded with lethal force to quell the insurrection.
At 0200 hours on the Thursday morning, you had two clicks on the radio. One burst from a Galil, followed by a B300 rounds. A GPMG from Harbour Road, IM60 from on top of Cattle. The aim was just to suppress and cause you to make a decision.
This Sunday on on Dependency, we revisit the events of 1990 and welcome retired Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, who will accompany us on this journey with his newly released book, Attack with Full Force, The Defense Force Response. Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 or watch live on the on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Remember, those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it.
On Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Independency, right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, God. Don't become a headline. Doing construction, picking fruit or trimming trees? Keep bamboo rods, ladders, scaffolding, roof beams, oversized material of any type, and body parts at least 15 feet from electricity poles and lines. Before doing any type of work close to overhead lines or to the point of connection to your home, and before digging where there are underground lines, contact T&Tech for a temporary disconnection so you can work safely. T&Tech, the power to make it work.
With the global expansion in the use of technology, the crime of human trafficking has fully conquered cyberspace. Technology is a powerful tool that can both enable and impede human trafficking. But future success in eradicating human trafficking will depend on how law enforcement and criminal justice systems use technology. It is essential to implement sustainable technology-based solutions to identify and protect victims, and to end human trafficking once and for all.
Finally, Welcome Relief comes in the form of a scientific-based program that shows us how to manage through the tough, current challenges. Called Habitalism, it features best-selling author on positivity and happiness, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, integrated with the award-winning Intangence methodology of Ross. Visit habitalism.me to register now for this free life-transforming program endorsed by the United Nations established University for Peace. Gifted by Guardian Group. Live easy.
I Am Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us, and continue to join us. We see you lining up. Please, those of you on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe to the channel so that you continue to follow us with work that we have coming up next. So, Natasha, I'm all excited. Let's go.
Yes, let's go one time. This is from, I believe it was round about this date in 2020 when we first broadcast this audio from the Brigadier General, and he talks about what took place, what he was involved in on those 6 days, and of course spliced in with some audio effects. So we try to make it exciting, and we still have that audio version for you. So what you will see, for those of you who are tuned in on Facebook and YouTube, you will see an image of the Brigadier and a couple other soldiers so that you won't get lost, but you will hear his voice telling his stories in his own words.
Right. And then after which, at the end of both contributions, you will have images of some of the weapons that they captured, some shots of that day, the cleanup, the operation, all that took place and all of that. So get yourself lined up and let's go now to Brigadier General Ancil Antoine on his account of 1990 and the role that he and his troops played. Let's go.
My regimental number was 3777 because of private, and then my officer number was 0053, and I retired as a Brigadier General. In 1990, I was company commander of Alpha Company, based in Tobago. On the 27th of July, I was the ADC, the acting president, Emmanuel Carter. The then Captain Maraj, who later became Major General Maraj, was my second in command. and he took the company out to a marijuana operation in central Trinidad, while I performed the duties as ABC to the acting president. So on the evening of the 27th, I would have been at home getting dressed to go to a dinner for the disabled at President's house. I was getting dressed when behold on the television I saw Abu Bakr saying that he had taken over control of the country. My immediate thing was to get out to the president, which I was unable to do so, but the security at President's house told me that the president was secured. I then attempted to contact Colonel Vidal, who was the commanding officer of the 1st Battalion that I was part of. I eventually got on to Colonel Vidal and told him that, look, I was in Arima getting dressed to go to the dinner, but that I prefer to go to Tobago, where my base was, and see about putting things together. He told me, go ahead, and the General Dylan, who was in charge of Charlie Company, was doing the presidential guard duties to take care of the president. So my first action was to proceed to come out to Barra. When I arrived at Komoto Barracks, I contacted Vidal again, and in discussions with him, we decided that we expect some kind of follow-on action to take place. So therefore, I need to secure Piaco Airport and disable the runway in Wallafield. So I gathered the soldiers together. I left Babel, Morel. I left him in charge in Komoto Barracks. I took Canterbury with me and Vicky Adam, and we went and secure Piaco Airport. Get the fire service and Coast Guard, the air guard, and there was the air wing at the time to secure the airport for the fire tenders on the runway. And I left Canterbury in charge of my detachment at the airport. And I proceeded to Wallafield and got some equipment again and put on the runway. And then when I told Vidal that we had secured both Piaco and Wallafield, we were confidence patrol throughout the eastern areas, check all the police stations, and let them know that I was the commander in the east and that the army was not supporting Abu Bakr. For the remainder of the night, I spent driving around from Sandy Gandhi down to Caroni, as far west as Mova, a police station, telling the police and ensuring them that we are in charge of these and we are not part of any support for Abu Bakr. I did that tonight, got about 2 hours sleep, and then I did it again from 5 o'clock by Saturday morning. By about 8 o'clock, when I finished, I contacted Vidal again. And he told me to take what men I had and come to camp office. Then I proceeded with Dicky Adam, some of the other sergeants, staff sergeants, and then Boulder, Ramnat, all the NCOs who were in Alpha Company up there. I told them to come to camp office. When I arrived at camp office, I was given a detail to drop Nolly Clark on Sackville Street and ensure that he went into the Red House. And then I was to proceed to traffic branch, link up with the police. Things started on Edward Street, on those streets there. And what she walked in, I said, well, I like staying until they're doing their well. I like she was doing. They stayed in the troops. I made contact with Colonel Bishop. Then was Captain Bishop. He was responsible for the western side of the house. Me, I told him what my instructions were. And then I told him, let's ride in the car, going to the house. I headed down traffic branch. Now, arrived at traffic branch, the police in traffic branch told me that, look, they think good in this area, but they're having problems at TTC because they were responsible for securing the southern and western part of TTC, and the army was supposed to be securing the northern and eastern part under then Captain Clark. And that if I could secure the southern and western part, I told them no problem. I got a chance to get in the fight. I proceeded on the corner of French Street and Travis Road, gas station there. I met the chief now, Major Penny, and Colonel Darcy, Rich Darcy. They were intelligence officers, and they tell me, yes, they need troops to secure the western and southern part of TTT, and the police have deserted because they couldn't hold the ground. And if I would do that, they asked me, well, I'll have to go and tell Colonel Vidal. They said, well, yeah, we go back to Camp Hopkins and brief Colonel Vidal and Colonel Brown at the time, and that I was to take responsibility. So from Travis Road, where I went south, then north up to Chuasi, where I linked up with Permell, after the Permell at the time. He was holding the western part. Michael Clark was on the eastern part by the roundabout. Tobago was one of my targets. He had declared them were Alpha. So I took them under command and we proceeded to engage the Muslims around PDT. Now the Muslims were on top Radio Trinidad. There was some water tanks on top there. And we had a firefight. The entire Saturday evening. I would have reached there around midday after 1. So for the remainder of Saturday evening, I engaged them. And the tactic I use is that once we come under fire, because they were on the height, we would go to ground and then try and engage them and then move. And somewhere along the line, about maybe 3, 4 o'clock, some resident, Trini, Mighty Trini was one of them, who lived around by TDT, came and said, look, all you could use our second story of our houses. Wanted to fire them levels because the demonstration was going on. So that time on now, they would direct us up to a bedroom or place where you could see Radio Trinidad, and I would leave 2 men there to engage the Muslims, and then we'll go to the next house, somebody else will let us up, and we eventually got a prep for them. You know, all the time was shouting out, Allahu Akbar, you all the guys not supporting the revolution, Allahu Akbar is great, Allahu Akbar. Yeah, but then now they start to come under pressure. Because now we was on the same height as them, and the floors of the buildings, and before I got pinned down on the ground, there are some automatic weapons that really had we pinned down for our life when the residents came to our system. So the tight turn, once we get the support of the residents, asking Lord Mikey Chini came, they bring dinner for us, and then the next morning, Sunday morning, we give you breakfast, good breakfast, fish and thing, and bacon thing. But by then, the Muslims abandoned Radio Trinidad. But we say it was because of the pressure they were under, they say because of a deal, ceasefire. We didn't know about no ceasefire, we know we were fighting them. We took over Radio Trinidad Sunday evening. I had a decision to make because we wasn't sure tackle building. If the Muslims and them were tackle building. I remember calling Permell. I said, Permell, get 3 boatmen and going tackle building and tried to make it work. They said, boy, I can't do nothing unless we know that tackle building is not actually field for us. Because tackle building commands the entire area and we call this building on Mahabharata. But eventually they went in and the Muslims are abandoned there as well. So we got a mezzanine floor on top castle building where we now commanded all around. That was the Sunday. We had able to achieve that. And by the Monday, Bacchanal start with Dickie Adams and Permell. Because we realized that since Friday night I out, I didn't get no chance to date Saturday, Sunday. So Monday I still look. Then we get a guy tells me, yeah, you can use, because one thing, neighbors around TTT was really helpful. The man say, officer, yeah, take a bath, yeah, look towel, right tell them, boys, I still look all you. You surround them now, they're in TTT, they can't go nowhere. Don't do no dotishness, I'm going on bathe. But who tell them that? By the time I bathe in, gunfire starts. Boom! By the time I run in, going, somebody fire B300 into TTT. And the fire from a height. So instead of going across and exploding, it went down into the base thing. And by the time I come with a fireball, burn down Channel 9. So much so that buildings that are burned, fire service don't want to run out the fire because they're sending Muslims shooting at them. I threatening them, telling them otherwise only work by now we work. But then boy and then decide, they come and they tell me that the Muslims then try to break out. I could never ascertain because I was taken aback. I was never able to know if them boy instigated the firefight or whatever it was, it was long Channel 9. And by then they were contained. So eventually all the fire the Monday, but by the Wednesday we contained them around TTT, and I was a spectator for the surrender. John Sandy and Alexander, they came, Special Forces more or less, and they survived the surrender because Caballero, one of my soldiers, and had got killed at the Red House. I went to make sure everybody makes safe. I went to each soldier post and say, I always take that rubber out of the chamber and make sure no children, let us fire no enemy shoot nobody coming out here for the surrender. The surrender was happened by Brigadier Stanley, and then I just keep my troops quiet until all of them left, and the Archie Philip, and then they went down fishing. So basically that is my role in 1990.
And your thoughts on the firepower from the Muslims? As far as you're concerned, they were well prepared for this firefight?
They were prepared for the firefight, but they were not prepared for the coup. There's 114 of them we bottle up in TCT. If they are broken up into 3 platoons, send 1 platoon to Tidra and send next platoon to Matlock. Because the attack on police headquarters was a terrorist attack. When Bijan and I was talking, we said, they can't just be for Spain. They can't have something else. We were saying that maybe some Iranians or Libyans would go and land in Tiaco and bring reinforcement. That way the hub the airport and so forth. And then Trinidadians, one bacchanal touch, Trinidad started loot and rob and all kind of area. We don't really continue. By them staying in Port of Spain and only attacking PDP and police headquarters, they allow us to surround them, confine them.
Keeping free passage, castaways with excess.
All right.
All right.
Just now, hold on. Stop that. All right. So there you have it, folks. That was the first account. And it's about to get a little more sticky here now. So, Brigadier General, you listened to yourself. I know you had a correction with the company because I heard you mention Alpha or Delta. So,
Permell belongs to Delta.
Delta.
Dickie Adams was Alpha.
That's my company. Delta and Bravo. So, and
but I had one question though, Brigadier. You mentioned the fact that the police were, well, obviously they were taken out of the equation basically because of the attack led on them. Do you think that was a good, in inverted commas, tactic by the Muslimin to eliminate that force from their attempt at taking over the country?
Yes, that was a good tactic. There was no purpose in attacking the military at that point in time. They were in their camp out there in Tetron. The police headquarters is next to the Red House. And that was the signal. Once the explosion took place at police headquarters, even Jamal Shabazz and them up at the Queen's Park Savannah, who was simulating as playing a football game. That was the signal for them to move in on Radio Trinidad and the others to move in on TTT. So it's a good tactic.
okay. So, folks, let's go. Before we go to the break, listen, we coming up next. Gary, could you hit number 6, please?
Track 6 on the flash.
Coming up next.
0200 hours on the Thursday morning, you had 2 clicks on the radio. One burst from Magalil, followed by a EP30 rounds. A GPMG from Marval Road, IM60 from on top of Cattle. The aim was just to suppress and cause you to make a decision.
We'll be back right after the Remember Till we have a surprise for you all too, right? So stand by for that. We'll be back. Stay right there.
Finally, Welcome Relief comes in the form of a scientific-based program that shows us how to manage through the tough, current challenges. Called Habitalism. It features best-selling author on positivity and happiness, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, integrated with the award-winning Intangence methodology of Ross. Visit habitalism.me to register now for this free life-transforming program endorsed by the United Nations established University for Peace. Gifted by Guardian Group. Live easy.
Don't become a headline. Doing construction, picking fruit or trimming trees? Keep bamboo rods, ladders, scaffolding, roof beam, oversized material of any type, and body parts at least 15 feet from electricity poles and lines. Before doing any type of work close to overhead lines or to the point of connection to your home, and before digging where there are underground lines, contact TN Tech for a temporary disconnection so you can work safely. TN Tech, the power to make it work.
With the global expansion in the use of technology, the crime of human trafficking has fully conquered cyberspace. Technology is a powerful tool that can both enable and impede human trafficking. But future success in eradicating human trafficking will depend on how law enforcement and criminal justice systems use technology. It is essential to implement sustainable technology-based solutions to identify and protect victims, and to end human trafficking once and for all.
I on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the I on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is I on Dependency, and we are reliving the events of 1990. We all know what happened then. Through the eyes of members of the military, we have Brigadier General Ancil Antoine in studio with us, and we have another special guest.
Yes, another surprise for you all in a while. So, but in the meantime, let's go to that. Now you're going to hear from Staff Sergeant at the time, Anthony Permell. Anthony Permell, one of the respected soldiers that walked and graced the parade square of Tepcham Barracks, and of course, representing the colors of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. His name is legendary, and he's one of the men that, this is something that you see in the movies where men run into the fire. He will describe every step of the way what it was like leading troops under the instructions from his brigadier here to take Tattle Building. So let's take that journey with them now. Again, just a warning, this one has a lot of explosions and gunfire. So just tell your children what it is.
Yes, if that is triggering for you, then
yes,
you know what to do.
Yes, if gunfire is triggering for you, then we issue this warning here now. All right, so let's go. Anthony Permell.
My name is Anthony Permell. Regimental number is 3987. Retired as the Command Sergeant Major of the Army. My service was from 1975 to 2007. During that period, I had 2 external postings. One for 2 months and 4 days at Tiga, Barbuda, and 1 year at the United States Sergeant Major's Academy.
Where were you July 27, 1990? And what role did you play as a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment?
My interaction during the attempted coup was a culmination of approximately a year and a half activities with the German. I would have been part of the team that occupied the lands And I ended up on the Jamaat lands as a sergeant for 4 to 6 months. I was then called to Tetra Barracks to teach tactics on an advanced cadre. And unfortunately, while being a part of the training staff on the cadre, 27th of July 1990 occurred. On that day, I was in Port of Spain with a deceased soldier named Young, nicknamed Joel. We went to Port of Spain to purchase personal stuff. On completion, we ended up upstairs at boutique mall by a retired soldier nicknamed Pops. While there, a police officer came up there because he thought soldiers might have been there and said that he was Jennifer Johnson's driver. The Muslimin had just taken over the Red House and was burning it down. This was the information that we had. We need to realize that it was not the Red House that was burning, it was the police headquarters. So we immediately left because we had parked by Woodford Square. Went to the vehicle, made a recce. We were hearing shots. We saw the fire and we left. Our intention was to head back to Tetra Barracks. On our way to Tetra Barracks, I stopped off in 4 roads. Those days there were phone booths. I made a call to my mom and I told her, do not expect to see me for a period of time. And we proceeded to Tetra Barracks. On approaching the main gate by Shaka Cabana, there was a carriage truck across the road and a GPMG in the light roll manned by the sailors. We went through that checkpoint, went into Tetra Barracks. At that point in time, I was a sergeant, so I went to the sergeant's mess, approached it from the area of the guard room, and on approaching the door, we met a major and a captain changing their kit by the sink outside the sergeant's mess. The remark was, "We're glad to see you all." Jumped into some camouflage fatigues and packed whatever little necessities that I needed, to include glove, hood, or whatever was needed up. And the key for the bunker was thrown into my hands. The order was, go to the bunker and you choose what you feel that they would need, the ammunition that they would need. I was given an FFR. An FFR is a long wheelbase Land Rover. FFR means fitted for radio, so it was a signals vehicle. I went to the stores, I drew my weapon and proceeded to the bunker. On opening the bunker, there was a variety of ammunition. I chose some 9mm ammo, which is general ammunition used for the garage. Some 7.62 machine guns used that, and I took some B300 rounds. The B300 rounds were not follow-through rounds. The B300 rounds were high explosive rounds.
Could you explain the difference between the two?
High explosive round for a B300 will explode on impact. The follow-through round will penetrate and then explode. We didn't have any questions of what we were using when the B300 was fired. I went back to the guard room where I spoke to the major and I was directed to go to Coast Guard. I was told that Commander Kelshaw will be waiting for me. Proceeded to Coast Guard, waited a while because the initial RV for the boat had to be changed because the first rendezvous where the boat will come ashore might have been compromised. So waited, we loaded the ammunition on the TTS Naparima and the ammunition was transferred by boat to a waiting convoy. From there, we were escorted to Camp Ogden. I, at that time, on paper, had belonged to the 1st Battalion. But because I was training up junior advanced cadre in tactics, I came under the Support and Service Battalion. I got to Camp Ogden, handed over the ammunition, and Colonel Clark, that time Captain Clark, told me that you with me. I said, yes, sir. Approximately 2000 hours. I was summoned and gave me instructions to escort the acting president, who was Mr. Carter, to Cumberland Hill. The intention was to declare a state of emergency. On reaching Cumberland Hill, the president was placed in an APC, armored personal carrier, and my escort was a short wheelbase Land Cruiser. The only person I remember on that escort with me was the driver, whose name was Brooks. Nearly to the top of Cumberland Hill, because of the weight of the APC, we had to go on foot with the president. The weight of the vehicle wouldn't allow it to go to the top. In that body of people there, you had Mr. Mayers. Mr. Mayers had on a white suit. As I approached Cumberland Hill, it was changed, but 3 men dropped to the ground in some bushes. So I was concerned. So, as with everything, I had to make an assessment. I did, and I called out to the people to identify themselves. Because really and truly, I did not know, or they weren't told that we were coming. So it was a little chaotic. However, the acting president did make his speech and declared a state of emergency. When this was completed, I escorted him back to Camp Ogden safely. At approximately 04 Saturday morning, we were on a military truck proceeding to the area at TTT to establish an outer cordon. That outer cordon started basically from Serpentine Road. And as time passed, we squeezed it, closed it up until Saturday evening. I must mention two events here. As we were deployed in the area of St. Mary's Ground, there's a big old house that used to keep a whole lot of parties in there. There were some people living there at that time, and they supported us. Got breakfast. The most we could tell them was thanks. We had to press on. Reached by St. Clair Medical, the people from the embassy, which is just north of St. Clair, they did the same, and we pressed on. By 1400 hours, we were in the vicinity of QRC, and the next move was to approach Tatil going south, and we proceeded. As we started that assault, we came under heavy fire from Tatil. These men were on top of Tatil. I didn't know it was .30 rifles they were using. At all the days in the butts came up, and in the butts, and you hear the bullet pass over your head. So then really started to realize what it was meant, and what people mean when they say give them back. Because at that point in time, you moving, but it might pass right by your head. Because these men on top of that, they aiming at you. They have the advantage over you because they over you. They're in a protected area, a defensive area, and you on the assault. So it was into fire and movement. I can tell you one thing, never forget. When you are under live fire, concentrated live fire, all your fear will leave you. You'd end up without feelings, and your survival mode will kick in. That's when all your training will kick in on you. And then maybe I was prepared because I was teaching tactics. So I might have been thinking about things that the soldier whose mind wasn't as current into the tactics area would have been thinking. On that offensive, I had Corporal Rees, that was no machine gunner, Glenroy Cox, which was one of my riflemen. We worked for years. He was in my section for years. And he ensured that he phoned me when this happened. On that assault, residents of that area who were calling on us for help, and we couldn't leave them. They basically slowed down the attack. We had to show some kind of support. Even said us to tell them, get in the bathroom, because there are 4 walls. When we clear here, then people will be coming behind to support. It's the first time I realized that there were so many electric fences in the back there. We as soldiers, we were on an assault and we had to deal with it. And there were children, ladies, and we had to bring some kind of comfort to them. When I reached about 50 meters from Tatil, I paused because my next task was to cross the road. I sent my radio transmission, and the question was, how close are you to Tatil? I said, I'm about 50 meters away from Tatil. And the response was, close enough, do not go any closer. At that point in time, my machine gunner came to me, which was Corporal Rees. Said, Sergeant, there's a man all in black in a mango tree, and he needs to speak to you. I agreed. I went across them. At that point in time, the firing from top of Tatil had lessened, vastly lessened. That's because we were on a fire and movement just so we were firing and moving. And these guys realized that we were coming at all costs. So I spoke to the gentleman, gave me some information. The information basically was to go 2 blocks to the south, which is the Chagrin Road, go up a street, jump one wall, jump another wall, and somebody will be waiting there for you. Based on the last instruction that I was too close, Brigadier Antoine was a major at that point in time, belonging to Alpha Company. I spoke to him. He said, all right, let's go. So small team, the Brigadier, Glenroy Cox again, and I went to that location. When reaching that location, we could have seen the southern side of TTT very clearly. We saw a settling tanks, which the insurrectionists had placed by the gate. That was in case that we were storming, that they could blow the tank. Tank would automatically end up a bomb. And after spending just about 10 minutes, a guy in black came out from TTT, looked up, looked down the street. Well, they didn't have a clue that we were that close to them, where we could have just touched them. Came up, we looked left, he looked right, went back to the door. Another guy came out, dressed all in black again. They spoke, gave him a high five, and he jumped the wall. Proceeded west on that street. But we had left a cutoff group on the end of the street. They left him to come for about 50, 75 meters, and they shut off his foot. And the brigadier said, I need that guy, let's go. So we left that location. We went to the cutoff group that we had left there, and that guy was taking the camp up there. And based on the intelligence and the information gathered from this guy, this is how we really knew what was happening in TTT, Radio Fusion, Radio Trinidad, and Tatil.
Right. This is only the beginning, folks, because we have in studio with us now the man himself, who you've just been listening to, Mr. Anthony Permell, retired regimental sergeant major, and he has joined the conversation here this morning with Brigadier General Antoine. And we have another special guest who is sitting quietly. He is not one for publicity. And I mean, even in the parade and all, he instructed us, do not put my picture up there, please. Right? I want to remain anonymous. And he's always been a colonel like that. But he dropped by to got his book, and the brigadier sent an order downstairs for him to join the parade. so once the brigadier sent an order, the colonel had to join. So the colonel is here with us. Morning, sir. Morning. Bishop is here with us. Just keep looking like a book, this only after himself in the studio. But I am really blessed, and Natasha should be too, to be in the presence of these gentlemen.
Yes, of course. I do have a brother who was a serving member, so I understand fully. And he was deployed during 1990. I was a 15-year-old, and that actually my birthday was the 31st. So I spent my birthday in, very close to TTT. Actually, we were in a building on Queens Park West. So that entire 6 days, we were, hunkered down and receiving army rations and all kind of madness. So yes, I am indeed honored to not only to relive the accounts of these gentlemen, but to have them in our presence this
It's
morning.
amazing.
It's really a pleasure. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, for the little time that I have served under these gentlemen, there is several instances that I would have had to serve under them, and I must say it's an absolute pleasure. And you all know I bias, right? This will always be my position on the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. All right, but yes. I'm not fooling you all. These gentlemen sitting in studio here with us, their names are legendary in the annals of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. So let's go to that part too, because remember we have another hour for to hear from Brigadier and Mr. Permell, and if the Colonel wishes to say a few words to you all. But let's go to part two now and the conclusion of what happened on that day. And as I said, just as a warning, if you are triggered by gunfire, well, you're going to be hearing a lot in this part of it. So let's go. Part two.
When the brigadier came back from camp up then, he called me. He said, "You're going to take radio fusion and radio Trinidad." This was done. And I reached into radio Trinidad. I made another call to my family and asked my mother if she wanted to work, because I was now the general manager of Radio Trinidad. Radio Trinidad, Radio Fusion, all the archives, all the pictures, the history of Radio Trinidad was on the ground. The place was ransacked. Spent maybe about half an hour there. Orders were given to me to take that. No, at that point in time, you just put yourself in my position. That is where all the fire was coming from. We weren't sure, based on the information given, the guy might have said that they had withdrawn into TTT. However, you don't know. I said, all right, let me have 5 minutes. They gave me 3 soldiers. One in Peters, one in Lewis. Can't remember the other soldier. I prayed and I said, all right, let's go.
So now you have to go into a close quarter situation.
Very much so. And let me explain something to you. Under battle conditions, if you was the leader, don't lead, nobody will move. So I pepper potted from the door. There were some cylinders with plants in them, some concrete cylinders. So the first one, I came under fire from TTT. And when I moved, the next guy would move. He would occupy my position. So we ended up under some fire going across the battle. However, 4 of us reached across there safely. On entering the basement, the bottom level of Tatil, the basement was flooded. There was no electricity in the building. The building was pitch black. We saw a washer truck under there, and you will see the crates where the guns and the ammunition was brought into TTT. There's a new police vehicle, the latest series at that point in time, and I made a listening stop. Because you just cannot go. You have to stop, listen, assess. And then we boarded the stairs. On the way up, there was this guy coming down. He walked directly into my muzzle. I asked him what was going on up there. And he said that there were only 2 security officers in the building. He didn't know that we were there. So it was a surprise. And I had to threaten him. He said, if you cause any of my soldiers here, they himself get damaged, you will not like the results. And then he assured me. And I escorted him up steps onto the 3rd floor. Because when I reached the 3rd floor, that is where I saw a very nice defensive position. I went, I checked what he was saying, and it was exacting. I then instructed the 3 men with me to check the entire building, and they did this. On the 3rd floor, there was a planted area, which was good cover for me. After about half an hour, I summoned my section, men who were with me during the firefight, up to that area. And we held there till the Saturday. Sunday went easy. Monday morning, I am on the 3rd floor at Tatil, Dickie Adams on Teachers Credit Union. We could actually speak to one man. I heard, pack, Tony, 3 men going in the building. They fired at me. Dickie had a beat 300. And I said, Dickie, hit them, just like that. He said, no, the boss. I said, Dickie, hit them. That's when the first rocket went. I had M60 plus galleys, SLRs on top of them, and we took out all the air conditioning units. So the building started to burn. 2 rockets, all the air conditioners out. And my instructions to my team was to break all the glass. Let's see how far we could see into TTT. TTT is so compacted, we saw nothing. That lasted for maybe about 45 minutes because there was sporadic fire coming back from TTT. They sent in the special forces with the fire services. There was a roof running on the southern side of the garage from TTT to Brigadier Trinidad, and they used that to get to TTT. And while they were wetting TTT, that was the instruction, they came under fire from in. One fireman just threw. He didn't know where he was going. And the other fireman, he ended up the same place. The power from the host pushed him over the wall. Lieutenant Phillips was there at that point in time because they were escorted in. I think Lieutenant Phillips was the person who escorted them in. So everything died down after that. The rest of Monday was peaceful. Tuesday, peaceful. At that point in time, we had nothing to eat. My soldiers couldn't be in. Every morning, my whole team be above. I would tell them to put their jackets on the eastern side of the building so it could be sanitized a little bit. Thank God to Leroy McKnight. The people who they sent to support us did not. I learned after that ration sent for us ended up by the Oval because that was a hot zone. Nobody wanted to come into the hot zone. Leroy McKnight came. He said, Soldier, I see you in this fight alone. What do you want? I said, Mark, all I want now, maybe some cigarettes and whatever you get. Some food from the troops. He left and he came back as he promised. Very thankful for him because we were not supported. During those 2 days, Canon or the clerk made maybe about 2 or 3 visits today. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know at that point in time he was negotiating an amnesty. We were in the trenches and we needed to do something. We wanted this thing over and done with. So Colonel Vidal came through with a photographer. You see 2 pictures of me on the express. That's how it ended up there. And we came up with a plan. We are in an advantageous position. We are in control. You are playing a waiting game, right? And we won't have that. I must mention, during that stay on Tatil, there was 1 policeman with me. They didn't want him, and they sent him by me. As far as I'm concerned, there's 1 more man. And up to today, we're still friends. I'm by the name of Roach. After everything happened, I carried Roach back to the police station because they didn't know where he was. He was on the jam from the Friday. As far as they're concerned, he was dead. And when I carried him back to the police station, they're asking him, "He's still alive?" That's what he went through. That would have been the Tuesday and Wednesday. It was quiet. Visits by Nordy Clark. One of the insurgents was taken out at TTT on a stretcher. He was shot, or maybe he was sick. And we came up with that plan. If you play in the waiting game, we need to finish. We need to come up with that plan. So we decided that we'll use intimidatory tactics. We'll show you a strength of force, and we will show you who is in control of this. And so, at 0200 hours on the Thursday morning, the day of the surrender, you had 2 clicks on a radio. Nobody would transmit at this point in time. 2 clicks. 1 burst from a Galil, followed by a B300 rounds. 2 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't like to be on the other side of that. A GPMG from Maraba Road. I am 60 from on the Teachers Credit Union, which was across the road. I am 60 from on top of Tatil and Gallies. The aim was just to suppress. force you to make a decision. At that point in time, the hierarchy of the military was on the radios. They were on the radios asking what's happening, what's going on there. When I say hierarchy, I mean from the top. And we ceased firing because I think we had achieved our aim at about 9:30 in the morning. Ironically, we were told that the Muslims were surrendering. So, as far as we're concerned, strategy worked, not knowing that an amnesty was made in the Red House, and that is why Nolly Clark was to and fro from TTT and the Red House. As the negotiation was going on there, we didn't know. There's a colonel from the US Army who was stationed one floor above me. People would know this, but that was the X-ray support for the assaulting team, which would have been the Special Forces. And he would come by me ever so often to find out what's going on. He and his troops, maybe 3 of them, came to me to find out what was going on. I explained to them, I said, well, there's an agreement on a surrender. It's supposed to happen anytime. And I was putting protocols in place because you are an insurrectionist leaving TTT. You were armed, and it was my duty to escort everybody by the tip of a rifle for every 10 meters until they reached the search area. So at no time were you not under a gun, although you were surrendered. And the colonel turned to me and said, I want you to pass it on to your men. So your men are very good. So I've been watching you all operating. I'm going to war with you all anytime. That was the biggest compliment I had for my troops and I during that war. So the surrender went on. They were shuttled out by buses. I proceeded to Tetra Barracks. On my way to Tetra Barracks, I ended up in fisheries, escorted into fisheries. I was nearly arrested until I had an interview with Colonel Alfonso that time and 2W1. And I explained to them what just transpired. I was allowed to go. I was then asked to go and revisit the location of all the weapons in Tetra, the defensive weapons. I did it. And after that, about 2 days, 3 days in Tetra, I ended up right back on Jama for the rest of the year. I was a senior sergeant in Jama at that time, working on 1-in-3 duty all through Christmas. Until 91 came in, I was summoned to Tetra, the train a batch recruit, as a platoon sergeant. And that was my take during the attempted coup.
The state of mind of the troops, were they, in your mind, battle ready?
Troops are always ready. But in order to be a ready soldier, you need to train. Failure to train will lead in negatives. The 1st Battalion, we train. But in a situation like a live firefight, it depends on leadership. No kudos to me. Maybe I might have been just a little brave, but I am telling you, in a firefight, if you do not move, you do not lead by example, the troops will not follow. They needed the comfort to know that they're working as a team. Teamwork is it, because when you're in a firefight and men peppering you, men will be on the ground firing and men will be moving. And the men who moving depending on you, the guy who firing, to keep the enemy head down, keep them from firing. Does not necessarily mean that you need to kill him. Just by keeping his head down and stopping that enemy from firing at your troops and moving, you have achieved the aim. Because then you are sure that the planned movement of the person who is moving is completed, because they will leave one point and go to another pre-planned point, because you just can't run. You have to know from here I'm going to there, and from there I make another assessment and go to another spot. So my troops were excellent.
Would you satisfy with the outcome?
No.
What would you have preferred to see?
Exactly as we wanted to do. The situation ended up like a schoolboy kicking a football. We were in the position of the schoolboy, and they were the football, because we could have done anything we wanted to do. Anything. Maybe if you had stormed the Red House, you stormed TTT, you might have killed some people. However, casualties belong to war. And then we would not have had what we went through between 1990 and now. The country would have never been in a state today.
So in your opinion, you think that opened the door to escalating crime in Trinidad?
Very much so. You know how many weapons left TTT before we reached? How many weapons were issued and people who were supposed to take part and didn't come? Food for thought.
They were well armed and prepared for this.
They had weapons that weren't mounted yet. Their cache of weapons consisted of .30 rifles. That was the main weapon that they were firing at us with. Repeater shotguns. There were numerous repeater shotguns unmounted in TTT and pistols. And for explosives, they fragmented pipe and packed it with whatever they needed to pack it with. That was their cash arms. The bus in the front of TTT, we knew that something here. We didn't know what it was. We were fully aware. The first recce with the brigadier, they had ideas because they were settling tanks by the gate, right? So we knew that there was some form of exclusive training within them, and that was it.
So the men and women who functioned during that period, what would you say to them?
To all the soldiers who stepped forward to defend this country in 1990, job well done. Colonel Alfonso mentioned support. People who were supposed to support needed the support. And the only way a soldier succeeds is through training, regardless of what. Your state of mind will be dictated by the events and the activities that take place at that time. All right, but to all the soldiers who stood up, and to that one person who was all in black in the tree, I don't want to call his name, that person should be presented with a national award. I think you know this. To all the soldiers, keep training. That's the only way to succeed.
To the men who are currently serving now, if they are confronted with this situation, what would you say to them?
You have taken an oath. Your oath is to defend the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. When you signed into the military, you are no longer the property of your family. You are the property of the state. 3 words I gave you to work with: make an assessment, make a plan, maybe more than one, and execute.
I'm so proud of you all. I'm sure Trinidad and Tobago, our folks on Facebook and YouTube, please send your love to these gentlemen in studio on behalf of all the other men and women who secured our country on that day. Before we speak to these gentlemen, let's go to the parade, short man. Let's go to D. No, sorry, E. Let's go to E. And we could show it again, but let's go to E now. And to
These
show
are
this,
all of the contributors.
yes, who contributed to the series.
Yep.
So the only picture you wouldn't see is Colonel Bishop, because I got to order not to put that picture. You know, I was very firm on that, and I followed that instructions. So, but folks, in studio with us is retired Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, retired Colonel Bishop, and retired Command Sergeant Major Anthony Permell. And we are very proud to have them in studio. While we're waiting on Short Man to pull up that video, Anthony Permell is the first time you're on Dependency. First time you probably even did, agree to do a radio interview. After all your years of service, you are sitting alongside the Brigadier General in this life here. How do you feel today and the job that you all did?
Well, firstly, I must say thanks to Natasha and yourself for inviting me. I must say morning to the General, Colonel, and Short Man.
Sure.
Yes, don't forget Short Man.
You were very correct. This is my first radio interview. And I'm pleased to be here to share some of the information that I did with the country, because most of the country, the population was unaware of the activities in 1990.
And it's well chronicled in the book by Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, and I'm sure you're going to have a good read of that book.
Will do.
Yes, I'm short man. Let's just run the pictures quickly so that the public can see. There they are. So we have in this picture is Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, Brigadier General Carl Alfonso, and Major General Ralph Brown. They were part of the contributors, and there you have retired RSM Modest. We have Blue Jones, who retired as Staff Sergeant, and WO1 Ken Eli. You also heard from him during the series. And then we have Colonel George Michael Clark, Brigadier Peter Joseph and WO1 Carlton Ramnath. They also contributed to the series. And we want to thank all of them and of course, the men of the moment here. So you have Brigadier General Ancil Antoine again, alongside as Peter, no, that is Reese, right? And Permell. They all, of course, this was after the firefight, yeah? Or before? During, okay. And of course, retired Colonel Vidal. And Lieutenant Colonel retired Wendell Salandi, he too, as well, contributed to the series. And we thank him most graciously for that. And gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you all with us here this morning. I can't keep saying it, can't stop saying it. I'm really proud of you all. I'm sure Trinidad and Tobago is proud of you all. And Mr. Permell, how you feel today now as you retired? If you are asked to do this again, would you?
I will. But lessons learned, the results might be different.
Right.
I must say that I felt let down by the actions that were taken that day, because at this time the country is still suffering the effects of non-action that I think that should have been taken.
And you're sticking with that?
Sticking with that. I wouldn't go any different to that.
Right.
And that is not an unpopular view, I must tell you.
No, it's not.
A lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I think we have dispelled, or we should have dispelled the myth as well. They talk about the army as, just shining boots down in Tetron.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do have a purpose, and it is moments like this when you have to value the role that the military plays in protecting your democracy.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Independency. We have in studio here retired Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, retired Command Sergeant Major Anthony Permell, and of course retired Colonel Bishop. They all in studio. Brigadier, so you took your time. You listened to yourself. You listened to Mr. Permell. I mean, you all at one time were wearing fatigues and defending this nation. How you feel today, knowing that this gentleman is here with you and the colonel who played his role too during that time? You know in another country, I mean, Trinidad, we do things the way we do it here, but this is big. This what you all did is big. It's huge. How you feel? You're walking around today, and Trinidad and Tobago should be grateful for your presence.
I these days I say Trinidad is not a real place. Trinidad is not a real place. Right? We have things topsy-turvy. We're supposed to be up is down. We're supposed to be down is up. Right? They said, if you do not know your history, you
don't repeat it.
Bound to repeat it. Right? A country needs heroes. As I was saying during the book launch, that if they didn't take a record of King, I think it's Leonidas, I hope I pronounce it right, and the 300 Spartans, nobody would have known about what happened with the Persian invasion of Greece and the defense of Greece by just 300 men against a massive army. History must be recorded, and you have to teach your children about history. I was discussing this with the colonel. During my stint as Chief of Defense Staff and my predecessors, we resisted attempts by the politicians and the public servants to change the recruitment criteria for the regiment, the defense force, from school leaving passes to O levels. Their position is that there are so many children coming out of school with O levels that they need to get employment. Our position was that, look, there are young people who, when they're going through secondary school, they're not focused, right? They're not on the academics and so forth. But when they leave school, coming out of their teens, early 20s, They go and do trades. They become mechanics, they become carpenters, they become masons, right? If you say that the only people who could come in the police, prison, fire, defense force have to have O levels, you have eliminated a whole section of your population from joining the military. And that is what the politicians and the public servants did, right? So as the colonel was pointing out to me, a lot of the members of the regiment band came from the orphanages, right? In my batch in 1973 was a lot of youth campers. They had no levels, but they were cooks, they were masons, etc. Now they cannot join the military. So who are they going to join? The gangs outside. And it's the politicians and the public servants who did that. And some chief of defense staff after me. I don't know who it was. Right? But now you have a whole cohort of young people who need to be in the military, but they cannot do so because to be in the military, you must have O levels. Foolishness. That is my problem with this. I say Trinidad and Tobago is not a real place.
But do you think, Brigadier, that the military in and of itself, if something similar to 1990 were to happen today, would they be prepared to?
Prepared or not, they would rise to the occasion. That is what Solane is about.
Yeah. No, but
they'll rise to the occasion.
But I want to stick to that point, Brigadier. You see, and then the soldiers we knew back then too, because I didn't have no 3O levels when I joined the work, and a lot of guys around our time didn't have that, but they were very loyal,
correct,
hard-working soldiers.
Correct.
These were the soldiers who, when I jump, you say how high, and
correct.
When I say jump, you say just say how high, and you got that. And
no, they cannot be a part. They cannot be a part of the military of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Or the police, or the fire. You must have 3O levels, or 2O levels.
And I think they have achieved their aim. It is now so. If you don't have maths and English, they tell you.
You cannot join the military.
And so Lerin suppose you know, anyhow, I understand, and I see how passionate you are about that Brigadier.
That situation, yes.
Yeah,
and you need to change. You need to go back to school even. All you need to do is to be able to read and write. But you might know the forest. Or you would be a good fisherman. You know the sea.
Yes.
Right? And that is the people you want in the military.
That's right. Yeah.
Academics.
I understand. And that's what I was just about to say. The men who we came from, because the men who fought alongside Captain Job for during enough time and all of that, these were men who came out of school event.
Correct.
But they were brave, and they were men who knew the bush.
Correct.
And they were
Villarreal.
comfortable. Villarreal was one of them. And they were happy in the jungle. Now, this is the kind of soldiers you want.
Correct.
So
you see, you need across the board. You need those with the academics. They also know those with the natural humanistic skills.
You see, the army supports itself. If we don't have people coming in and clean and we cater with food and all that kind of stuff, you don't have to have 3O levels to be a cook or a mechanic. Right? When the vehicle breaks down out there, who would fix it? We don't need the enforcement as subjects in the military.
Because the guy whose head was in the book all the time before he joined the work, he didn't have no time to fix no car.
You can't live a bucket of water.
Seriously, I mean, it's only common sense.
Very much so. They can't do hard work. The youths of today didn't grow up like us. We grew up toting water and running and playing sport. Right now, all the youths on a computer like this, they don't play sports anymore. We need, and some of the best soldiers that pass through the army are people from places like Matlat and Grand Riviere and all these places.
410.
Yeah.
Rio Claro. Yeah, I know men used to leave Papa Farrell and they used to reach to work in time for muster, and them coming from point and going back point every single day.
Right.
And you know how committed these soldiers were. You know, it's wow.
So for those of you listening and watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, please send in your questions. If you have any questions for these gentlemen in studio today, please, now is the time. They are obviously ready to talk. But I wanted to go back to the 1990 just for a bit, if I could get your thoughts on what do you think we have learned? I know that a lot of people feel that it didn't have the ending that was required. But what do you think we have learned as a country out of that 1990 experience?
Can I answer that?
Please.
I would say nothing. All the inquiry that was done, the commanders on the ground were not included. You see, I can't give you a account of this because I was on the ground, I was present. But there were people who dressed up very nicely, who maybe were in an office and played the biggest part in the inquiry, or who said the money spent and no lessons learned. That's my take on it.
Gotcha. Brigadier?
A lot of the lessons that should have been learned in 1990 was lost. The decisions, for instance, to initial amnesty, as the case may be, because almost all the lawyers, almost everyone said that would not have held up in court. It didn't hold up. It didn't hold up in the Privy Council, but it held up in our local jurisdiction. It's difficult to me that I have the military grew out of 1990, right? After 1990, we realized in the military that we didn't have enough maneuver capability, right? So that's why a second battalion was created. In 1990, we had one maneuver battalion, the 1st Battalion, and a logistic battalion. So after 1990, by 1992, the military formed a 2nd Battalion and a 1st Battalion. So then you have 2 maneuver battalions, as Warren Permell was saying. The military tactics, even at the ground level, is fire and movement. One group static, while the other is moving. And if you only have one maneuver unit, then you cannot do that, right? So after 1990, the military changed. So now we have 2 maneuver units. So the 1st Battalion can hold on wherever, and while 2nd Battalion is maneuvering, as the case may be. So the military evolved. We went to creating Army, Air Force, Navy, reserves. So that's why I say, you ask the question, I would say that they would rise to the occasion. Out of the military will come the necessary people to do the necessary work. History is replete with that. For instance, it was the generals and them who was in the military in Second World War that became famous. One became president, Eisenhower. If he had been born 15 years earlier, he would not have been recognized. So for every war that comes up, military people rise to the occasion. So I have no doubt that if something happens in the future, that the present-day soldiers and sailors and airmen will rise to the occasion.
Will do the same. Agreed. I have no reason to believe that out of this experience, the military would not have learned its lessons. That's what you all do, right? But in terms of other aspects of life in Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of security of elected officials, in terms of security of broadcasting locations, I'm hoping that we have evolved in those respects as well, because the threat that the Parliament came under, that's serious. You cannot have elected officials being bombarded in the way that unfortunately has happened recently in the United States of America. These things not supposed to happen, right? But I hope, and this is a question that we asked during our first series, is that whether the Parliament has evolved to be able to respond to these kinds of threats.
No, what I noticed, glad you brought that up, Natasha. What I noticed, gentlemen, with that, when the capital was invaded by those bunch of vagabonds, there was they had actual plans to evacuate the vice president and his team. They had a course, and they had 2 different areas to choose from. Because if you listen to the comment, they sort of redacted when they were reliving it where so plan A failed. All right, so we have plan B. And I was saying that for our parliament, I would hope that with this building the new parliament, that would be included, that they would do. It's obvious they did drills inside there with the senators and everybody to say, look, in case this happens, then this is what we do. People panic, but they kept them calm. Secret Service kept them calm, and they show you the picture where the president, vice president was being ushered out, he and his team, to a tunnel where they went to a safe room. So I'm hoping that coming out of our situation, that the team was hurt, Nobody, the police kept them. I mean, you see the battle the battle royal it had outside, but not a hair on the head of these government officials was touched because they had a plan to evacuate them. So I'm thinking the next time that happens, if it happens in our parliament, from the time you hear that first gunshot, and you saw the reaction from Joseph Tony when he was on his feet, and everybody took a while for everybody to get their bearings. Yeah. And these guys were able to come in there, and I'm thinking, Permell, you could tell me if I'm wrong. If you're in a building and you see men coming up and you hear men coming up, wouldn't you have the advantage if you're prepared? Because you know the ins and outs of your location. They come in, unless they have time to recce and map out the place properly. You know where to position yourself to take them out one by one. Am I correct?
You're very correct. But the level of training that you possess, right? And then we have to remember that politicians are just elected people. A trained man would react differently in an advantageous position. All right, but our biggest problem is that we do not put security into the building process.
Okay.
We build a building, and when we occupy the building, then we start to study security, evacuation routes, and all that kind of stuff. I much hope that lessons learned from 1990 would have caused the government to keep the building of the Red House under the lock and key that it was at when they were building it, and that they put evacuation routes and systems in place for the parliamentarians. I can't say that.
And have dry runs too.
Very much so.
Yeah. Everybody going there on a weekend in PT or whatever, and put them to sit and tell them and take them to the drills. I would hope that happened. And I mean, that should be initiated too by the command of the police and defense force. Even if the politicians not thinking about it, at least the command hierarchy should let the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security look. At some point in time, we have to do this. And again, when your neighbor house on fire with yours, there's a perfect example of January 6th.
There you go.
Of what happened. Yep. Those men were prepared. Because you see, when as soon as the young lady broke the glass and she jumped, what happened? She ran right into the bullet of a Secret Service pistol. And that stopped everybody. Because if they had allowed her to come in, remember, everybody would have poured into that hole and it would have been harder for them. So they were prepared. They blocked the door and they stalled, and they gave enough time for the vice president and his team to leave, and they were able to keep them at bay. So you're right. I'm hoping that, if not, then I hope this program would trigger that in their heads that this needs to happen, because we're hoping that the Red House has the same thing, that safe room, because that room where they talk about at the Capitol, they built that, as you said, that was purpose built for that same reason. In case it happened, everybody rushed to safety, and you lock them in that room and they stay there for hours. They have everything in that room.
I don't think we that advanced that.
But safety in the parliament in Trinidad evolved since 1990. There's no dedicated force at the parliament.
Mm-hmm.
In 1990, policemen were just detailed. I can't remember his rank, George. he was from Mounted Branch. He died. He was the senior policeman on duty at the time. So normally they would just detail somebody from the police service to be on duty at Parliament when there's a sitting of Parliament.
Right.
But now there's a dedicated force at the Parliament. They work only at the Parliament, so they will know the ins and outs and so forth. So I think that it has evolved in terms of security.
So if you're just joining us, we're going to take a break. I know some of you want to call in and speak to these gentlemen and congratulate them and show them your love. So we're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to show that short video, and then we take your calls. And of course, the Brigadier will tell us more about this book, where you can get the book, because you all need to purchase this book. It's well put together. Excellent. Brigadier General, well done. Thank you very much I could imagine how many waking and sleeping hours it took for you to complete this. It's well done. Thank you so much. And the pictures in it are really crisp. HD, I must say. Yeah, well done, man. Let's go to that break, folks. We'll be back.
With the global expansion in the use of technology, the crime of human trafficking has fully conquered cyberspace. Technology is a powerful tool that can both enable and impede human trafficking. But future success in eradicating human trafficking will depend on how law enforcement and criminal justice systems use technology. It is essential to implement sustainable technology-based solutions to identify and protect victims, and to end human trafficking once and for all.
Finally, Welcome Relief comes in the form of a scientific-based program that shows us how to manage through the tough, current challenges. Called Habitalism. It features best-selling author on positivity and happiness, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, integrated with the award-winning Intangence methodology of Ross. Visit habitalism.me to register now for this free life-transforming program endorsed by the United Nations established University for Peace. Gifted by Guardian Group. Live easy.
Don't become a headline. Doing construction, picking fruit or trimming trees? Keep bamboo rods, ladders, scaffolding, roof beams, oversized material of any type, and body parts at least 15 feet from electricity poles and lines. Before doing any type of work close to overhead lines or to the point of connection to your home, and before digging where there are underground lines, contact T&Tech for a temporary disconnection so you can work safely. T&Tech, the power to make it work.
Thank you for staying with us. This is I on Dependency, and we are in the company of some national heroes this morning as we relive the events of 1990. We have Brigadier General Ancil Antoine, retired WO I Anthony Permell, and retired Colonel Bishop, who is sitting quietly reading his book in the back there. But he's still taking in all of the discussion and all of the remembrance that we're having today.
Yeah, so Shoman, let's go through video D, and then we'll so these are some of the images. Again, if you weren't in Trinidad and Tobago in 1990 and you don't know what happened, let's take that quick journey, just about 3 minutes, but you will see some of the sites of that day.
These images, I must say, are courtesy of the Express and Nallis.
I'm not going to say good morning to good morning to Mrs. Antoine, Mrs. Permell, and Mrs. Bishop.
Yes.
For allowing these gentlemen to be here with us this morning.
Of course.
Must hello the bosses. Yes. So, ladies, thank you so much and then thank you for your service as well, because to be married to these men who serve all these years, and give up their life and to the Trinidad and Tobago, you served as well too, you know, and as wife of military personnel. So thank you once again. So we have images now that you're seeing here on top of the Red House. These are, I recognize two of my members of my batch there. And these are some of the photos at the insurgents being led out of TTT and some at the Red House. And I trust, Brigadier General, would you have some of these photos as well in your book?
Yeah.
Right. This book is a keepsake, folks. Don't miss it. Yeah. Don't lose out on purchasing.
One of the things that struck me about some of these images is the ages of some of the young people who are at TTT in particular.
Yeah.
They look like teenagers.
Look at this one.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That child.
I mean, how did you all feel seeing these young faces? I mean, did you think that these were the people who might have been firing upon you on that day?
Well, we would not have interacted with them because by the time when they surrendered, they put on vehicles and taken to detention.
I'm sure you must have been taken aback.
Yeah, we just saw them at rifle this as you want to put it like that. Yeah, so we would not have interacted with them.
Yes, folks, we'll run this reel again. This has any audio, Gary?
Yes, it have some music.
Yeah, let's so we have this Mr. Abubakar himself being this is the man on the bus, hands on the head, going to fisheries, and these are civilians.
Yeah, coming out of Red House.
Right.
I had a slight idea of who these people were because before I was called to Tetra to teach tactics on the Canada, I spent some months on the German.
Right.
And in my interview, you have heard me saying that I was nearly arrested.
Yes.
Right.
I was nearly arrested because on my way to Tetra, I went into the fisheries department, escorted into the fisheries department to see if these were the same people. That was my reason, because I didn't believe that the people whom I was seeing every day on the Jamat, that they would do such a thing. I was shocked.
These are some of the weapons we're looking at here that you all found, right? Yes. This photo, this iconic photo. Let's go back to the second shot, short man, with the young lady sitting with a reporter, with soldiers. Was that as a reporter, right? Kamini Murad. Oh,
she visited our location.
Okay, that's her there. That's her right there. Yes. Okay. So and she fit right in. Because Kenny Lai was telling us about a reporter who he had to actually teach just in case, give him a crash course on using the Galil, just in case they had to defend their position. So Gary, let's take some calls now. 622-3937. Let's speak with these gentlemen. Give them your love. We once again are so proud of them. Brigadier, you wanted to add anything? Tell us how you could get your book, please.
Before, I want to say something to the national community.
Sure.
Why I say Trinidad is not a real place. There's an elephant in the room in Trinidad and Tobago that for whatever reason, no one seems to want to deal with. And that elephant is the public service. Right? Since the time of Gordon Draper, we are trying to get public service reform. My background is history. The British Empire developed different public services for the different colonies. There were settler colonies, Canada, South Africa, Barbados, right? Australia, and they set up particular kind of public service and public servants to develop these countries. Then there were plantation colonies whose only purpose was to provide raw material for the mother country. And they set up a particular public service in those countries, not to develop the country. And that is the public service we have in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to deal with that elephant in the room in Trinidad and Tobago. deal with the public service if Trinidad and Tobago wants to progress. Or otherwise, you could just be spinning top in mud year after year after year, because their only purpose is to prevent things from happening and pass it on to the next year.
Okay.
I spent 38 years dealing with public servants. I can tell you from experience. If Trinidad and Tobago don't deal with that elephant in the room, we are not going to make any progress nationally.
It will take another century, because as important as bureaucracy is, too much of it can really, stymie progress.
Stymie country.
Yeah, agreed.
Gentlemen, we have our first call. Good morning.
Yes, and good morning. So everything regular and fast on my end.
Morning.
870 Smartest. So we support battalion last place of active duty.
Smart, how you doing?
Morning.
Hi, Jay, man. Hi, Jay. Brigadier, it's really a great contribution to, know that you did something like that, to write a book and that kind of thing. And that is really, really nice. Really, really nice. Because I myself had some experiences there. I actually served during that period of the 1990 attempted coup. I used to guard Abu Bakr and them, but I heard God say they were carrying them down to fisheries. Actually, what happened? Abu Bakr went back to the royal jail because they didn't want Abu Bakr down there. He's very influential to influence the men and them to do anything. Understand? Jamal Shabazz was at fisheries.
All right. Thank you, Smart. Thank you very much for your input and your call. Thanks for listening. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, guards and the team and the former brigadier and colonel and stuff and Natasha.
Good morning.
It's quite ironic that the brigadier spoke about the same thing that Mr. Weenie spoke about with just a school leaving, and that you're leaving out a major part of the young population to getting into the services, the military and the police and stuff like that. And we kind of put you're isolating a lot of people, and that's depending on academia. Even though academia is important, but there must be a mix, because you're leaving out a raw talent. Because some people see the smartest man is the man who academically inclined. But we have to remember common sense and too really common too, So there must be a mix, and I understand, because he was producing in the 80s and the 90s a kind of noble young man who wanted to go into the forces, fire, police, army. Now we're not really seeing that outtake. So then there must be some. I didn't know as well the police service as well. It's like an 8 to 4 public service. You go train and you go back home. So a lot of these things need to be looked at, and I enjoy the program. And these are things. And the funny thing, the end year guys, the world now told us about academia. They're now celebrating. Most of the billionaires are not academics, Most of the billionaires around the world are not academics and college dropouts. So I want to know the kind of confusion we. So I think they should really think about, the confusion we know. About success now. Thanks, people.
All right.
Thank you.
622-3937. Hello, good morning. Morning. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, morning.
Morning.
Morning, God, Natasha.
Hey.
And to your guest there.
Former retired police officer. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Congratulations to you, Brigadier, on your book.
Thank you.
I look forward to getting my copy.
Certainly.
Brigadier, I have a question for you. There seems to be some ambiguity concerning the role of Mr. Gary Griffith in the 1990 coup. As a man who was on the front line and a man who was on the ground, I don't know if you could shed any light or bring any clarity to that, please. Listen up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Griffith in 1990 was an officer cadet. An officer cadet is an officer who finished training but has not yet been commissioned. As such, he could not have commanded troops. So he was left to work in Tetron Barracks, I believe, at the gate, and he spent the entire coup not Tetron Barracks, at Camp Ogden.
Right.
So he spent the entire period at Camp Ogden.
Okay, so he didn't take any troops on the road? Or...
No, he could not have taken any troops anywhere.
Right.
He was an officer cadet.
And Okay. Well, there you go, folks. You heard it. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yes,
Morning,
sir.
speak up.
I come up congratulating you all for the wonderful work you all are doing. You know,
thank you.
Of all the events that you can face in this national policy. But I have one pet grouse. Amnesty and the freedom of these people have changed the course of history of this country. We are now experiencing all the violence and aftermath of the coup. If I was it might seem ironical to say that, but if I was a soldier at that point in time, my gun would have misfired. No, my gun would have misfired, and the course of history I'm sure you have seen in this country. Okay? Thank you so much.
All right. Colonel Bishop, you know, we got wind of a situation, well, not situation, the police planning to recognize their officers as well. And I heard some things about officers, what they experienced during the coup, and I didn't know that some officers went through that. And anybody in this country know that Miss Glenda Jennings, who was a parliamentarian, eventually, she was shot too during 1990. And I remember when Colonel Bishop made his contribution, you told us about when you all went through Central Police Station, what you saw. And, you know, it was, the police went through a lot. As a matter of fact, the first casualty was at Central Police Station, McLeod, that's his name, right? PC McLeod. He was doing sentry duty at the gate, and he was blown to bits. They ever found any of him?
No, he wasn't blown to bits. He was shot. The vehicle went over him and exploded.
Oh, the vehicle went over him. Right.
But he caught fire.
And was detonated, the bomb was detonated in the middle of the courtyard somewhere around.
The entrance to the courtyard.
Okay. There you go. The police service finally decided to recognize their role. And because you would have heard the comments from people, all police did was change their clothes and run and hide. And that's far from true, because they heard Mr. Permell and his account with Roach. And I'm sure he was a good support for you, Permell.
Yeah, in the initial stage, when Roach joined my crew, I looked at Roach as another rifleman.
Right.
The more men I have, remember, I am in command. So even if you don't know what to do, I guide you what to do.
Right.
And Roach was an asset to my team.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And he had an SLR. Most of us had galleys, and I would want an SLR with me, because the SLR is like a bison.
Heavy duty joint.
Heavy duty is a bison in relation to a cow.
True. Yes.
But there are a lot of policemen and women accompanied the soldiers during the 6th day of the siege. Not just Permell, there are other, they just, whatever circumstance, like for instance, those who was down at the Jamat, they just stayed with Sergeant Briggs.
Okay.
Accompanying him throughout these days, as the case.
That deceased Tattoo Briggs?
Yes, deceased Tattoo Briggs.
Okay.
There's a chapter about him in the book.
Wow.
I must say here that part of the cut-off group that we left when we went by Mr. Scott, there were policemen in that group too.
Okay.
That's when we got the first man.
Right. So folks, is here, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service did play their role. And we hope that during the month of August, when we pay tribute to the to the protective service, people can get a copy of your book. Let's forget that.
I deliberately have not put the book at the bookstores yet, or Amazon.com and Kindle. That will happen on 10.
Right.
Let me say, from the 2nd of August, the book will be available in bookstores, and will be available Amazon.com, and a Kindle version will be available. So retirees, I think the book is good for you to get a copy of, and I'm leaving it at the book launch price, so that when you get a pension, you can put aside a little and buy the book. Right? So that is hence the reason why it's not in the bookstores yet, and it's not on Amazon.com. That will happen from August, from the 2nd of August.
So this is the time for former and current serving members
to get a
copy.
At a cheap price, at a discounted price.
Discounted price.
Brigadier Alfonso was asking me about discount on the chat.
Right.
The price is already discounted.
And that price is, sir?
Yeah?
$200.
$200.
Right.
Right. And I have a correction though. It's Glenda Mitchell, not Glenda Jenner. Glenda Mitchell, police officer Glenda Mitchell.
Thank you.
She was
That's an important correction.
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you very much for that correction.
Glenda Jennings all the time. And
Yes.
She never said she was.
Glenda Mitchell. My bad. Sorry.
Right.
You had Glenda and
So,
Jennings just came to mind. So
Brigadier's book, Ancil Antoine, Attack with Full Force, the Defense Force Response to the Jamaat al-Muslimin 1990 Attempted Coup, is available at a discounted price until the 2nd of August, at which point it will be available in bookstores and online for purchase.
is there a number people can call in case they want to order a copy of the book?
No, there's not a number, but you can send an email to briganvil@gmail.com. BRIGANVIL@gmail.com, and we will get a copy of the book onto you.
So that's right down, Natasha. So we could put it in the chat. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's take another call. 622-3937. Thanks, Joanachi, for that correction. Good morning.
Good morning. What a beautiful program. I saw a good history of the Brigadier back in the days of 1990. But I want to ask the Brigadier something, right? Now, when an officer being expelled from the army, let's say he's a special trained opsman, do they keep tabs on him? Because he could train young fellas into his gang. Remember, he's a defect too. So, and he well trained. So he could train young people to go and do mysterious crimes now. Do they take tabs on the fellas? Like they have a follow-up on them at the behavior? Because they were from the army. For what reason? How they keep tabs on these?
Again, some people requested books in South, and we'll link up with you during the course of the week and get a copy onto you.
Maybe you could do a signing in South?
Yes, well, possible, and also Tobago. That is being planned as well.
Wow, yes. Could you spell out the email address?
BRIGANVIL@gmail.com.
And you can check our Facebook page, and Natasha just posted it there.
Yes.
So you can get the email address for the Brigadier and get your copy. 622-3937. Good morning. We have retired Command Sergeant Major in studio with us, retired Brigadier General, and retired Colonel.
A very good morning to the panel, Garth and Natasha.
Good morning.
The panel. 2 points I want to make. The previous government, not this present government, the previous government, Garth and Natasha and panel, had a commission of inquiry into the 1990 coup that was staged by the Muslims. And the chairman of that commission of inquiry, Barbadian jurist Sir David Simmons, said that the special branch, the highly praised special branch, they had abandoned the then Prime Minister, Iana Robinson, in his greater hour of need. He was very critical, that is Sir David Simmons, was very critical of the special branch at the time, that they didn't perform as professional people as they should be. That is the first point. And the second point, I know time is run out, just quickly, is regards to a statement made by the former Member of Parliament, Gloria Henry. And I think Gloria Henry was also a Minister of Education in a previous government, if my memory serves me right. And she said that, according to what she said in this article of Wednesday, the 22nd of June, 2011, in the Express newspaper, she said that, Gloria Henry said that she's of the firm view, and she stands by her statement, that the former Prime Minister, now deceased Patrick Manning, had prior knowledge of the coup. Because she said she saw, just before the coup, she saw Mr. Manning in deep conversation with some young men who she later, when the coup did take place, she recognized the faces of the young men who were in that deep conversation a few hours before the coup took place. And Mr. Manning, she said, conveniently absented himself from the parliament sitting that day. I listened to your comments of air. Thank you for the time you've given me this contribution.
622-3937, 622-3937. Gentlemen, we have...
Hello.
All right,
Hi,
let's take it. Hello, morning.
Good morning, Garth, Natasha, and your guests. A very excellent program. This history of our country should be taught in schools. And I agree with the gentleman who said he would do that again if he was called to serve. But the result would have been different. We would not be having all these problems in our country if it was a different result at that time. So I'm happy to hear what my son was a young soldier at the time. He retired as a warrant officer, and the army shaped his life. So these men are men who probably he worked under. Excellent program. I enjoy your programs on Sundays, and this is one of the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
And we have lots more as a member of the National Task Force against human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. We have an event coming up at Woodward Square on Saturday, and we'll alert you all about that during the week because, as you know, World Day Against Trafficking in Person is Saturday 30th. And then on Sunday, we have another very serious program for you to view. So, and it's all against human trafficking. Brigadier, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just limited to the caller before the lady, the first part. I'll just read from chapter 67 of the book, After Action Review. The surprise attack was achieved because of an intelligence failure by the Trinidad and Tobago Special Branch, which was a unit at the time charged with the gathering of information and disseminating of intelligence to the national security community. Mr. Dalton Harvey, head of the Special Branch, testified before the commission that there was no coordination between the police and the army on tactical matters or intelligence. Mr. Harvey further stated that the Special Branch did not share information and intelligence with any other agency, including the Defense Force, as they distrusted the other agencies. Customs and Immigration was seen as departments riddled with internal corruption, and the Defense Force was perceived by Special Branch officers as considering itself superior to the police. They singled out the officer class of the Defense Force who thought they were superior, and this created resentment in the Special Branch, and the relationship between the units did not develop.
Okay, there you go.
So all that is that and much more is contained in the book Attack with Full Force. Make sure and get your copy.
Make sure and get your copy, folks. Let's take one more call before we ask these gentlemen for their final comments. If we could get to that's good morning.
Yeah, just calling back that. I'll just making a suggestion, please. If you could have Colonel Hugh Vidal on your program. He played a significant part in the 1990 attempt.
Thank you very much. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, God.
Morning.
Natasha.
Morning.
Morning.
Colonel Bishop, Brigadier General Antoine, Gentlemen,
And
I
retired
wish to-
and retired Command Sergeant Major Anthony Permell.
Okay, and retired.
Command Sergeant Major Anthony Permell.
Okay, sir. I want to congratulate you three guys for the sterling contributions you all made in saving the country during those perilous times. What is sad is that you guys wanted to be soldiers to serve your countries. You didn't want to just get a work as a soldier. So I'm happy that the Brigadier wrote his book, which is an important part of our history. And nice program, God. God bless, and we listen next on to whatever you have to offer.
Thank
Thanks
you very much.
Thank
Brigadier,
you.
I want you to drive home that point again. What would you suggest then? What advice would you give in terms of recruiting for the forces in Trinidad and Tobago? Because you said it goes across all arms of the protective service, where they want now 3 subjects for people to join the work. Who's being left out here, and how would you fix that?
They need to revert to how it was before. School even, you just need to be able to read and write to join the military. Other skill. The military is an organization that trains you before it employs you.
Right.
Unlike the public service, you join the public service and that's the end of your training.
Yes.
Right? You just learn from all these, sorry to say, all these slackness from all the other public servants, and you go right up until you come
Yes.
PS. In the military, for you to become a soldier, you have to be trained as a recruit. For you to become an NCO, you have to do a cadre.
Right.
For you to become an officer, you have to go to officer cadre training.
Right.
The army trains you first and then employ you.
Right.
So regardless what background you come from in your civilian life, when you come into the military, they train you and then employ you.
Right.
Right. And that way, there is no need for focusing on people with academics to come into the military. Because regardless of what, when you're coming to the military, academic or not, they're going to train you and then employ you.
Gentlemen, we have just about 1 minute before the news. Mr. Permell, your final closing comments?
I fully concur with the General. I think we should revert to the last system of recruitment.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for having me. And Gata Natasha, do enjoy, and Shortman, do stay safe and enjoy the rest of the time.
Yes, gentlemen, again, Colonel Bishop, thanks for dropping by. I know you get details to come up to it, but thank you for sitting with us very quietly. Mr. Permell, Mr. Antoine, God bless you all. Give them the applause button one more time, Gary. To all the men and women, and to the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, happy anniversary, happy 60th anniversary. Yes. God bless you all. We have major news up next. In 1 minute's time, we have to clear the studio. So, folks, Natasha.
Great time. I appreciate you gentlemen a lot. And again, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Thank you for your service. Thank you so much for your service. God bless. Okay, folks, have a good week. Be safe.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.